friends. Let's talk about painting with palette knives, play with them a little bit, talk about a couple of tips. So this church, it's on a garden flag hanging on my studio wall, was originally painted with a palette knife. And so is this boat. And I kind of want you to see the boat because it's got some yummy smearing that you can get with a palette knife. That's a technical term, smearing. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I wanted to show you a couple more of my palette knife paintings because I can get a little crazy with it. So the background was painted with a brush, and I think you can see it because it's softer. And the eyes were painted with a brush, and I bet I painted the nose with a brush. But the whiskers, can you see how they kind of are jaggedy? And all the fur is painted with a palette knife. Isn't that crazy? It may have been easier just to paint it with a brush. I do all my pet portraits now with a brush because it actually takes me longer to work it out with a palette knife when I get this kind of detail. But I just thought I'd show you that you could paint the whole thing with a palette knife. This was in a book, Acrylic Works 6, I think it was 6, a couple of years ago. It's on the best acrylic artists. So I thought that was really cool that made that in there. This is one of my favorite palette knife paintings. There's a YouTube video based on this painting, and it's just, look at the tree. It's just blobs. So there you can even see like a little palette knife. I would have used this one. This is my favorite palette knife. Here, I'm trying to grab it so you can kind of see the shape of it. And then I splattered paint on it. But see the sky, that cloud is probably some titanium white that I just smeared right on there like that. So and then of course the trees. So I'm giving probably too much detail. You can watch the video. I think you guys would like this. It's in real time, step by step. And then here's another crazy one. I think I painted all of this with a palette knife, and it would have taken me forever. Isn't that funny? I might have no, that's definitely palette knife. I definitely wrote the letters with a brush. Snow 1. But you can do it if you have the patience. Look at the tire. I think that's a little insane. I hope that's focusing. But this is similar to the last one I showed you. You know, the mountains. So a palette knife can make great mountains, great texture. It's really good. I don't have an example. There's some of my bird paintings. Use a palette knife for the branch. Can make it quicker, easier, get texture. That can be a lot of fun. Okay, and then I just took a piece of canvas and cut it smaller and taped it to a piece of cardboard just so I have something to paint on. And then, so it doesn't move on me, because a piece of loose canvas would be kind of hard to palette knife paint on. And then I have all kinds of knives, bigger ones for if you're working on a bigger canvas, just like brushes, smaller ones if you're working on a smaller canvas. And you can get bigger knives than this. I personally like them when there's a little bend in them, because I tend to get my hands in the way on the painting. This one, I mean, you could use it because it'll bend. I don't know if you can see that. It'll bend. There you go. But for me, it's more for like scooping stuff out of a jar or making lines. It's great for making lines with that long edge on there. And there's a round guy. So these, pretty sure, oh, that one, yeah, these are from Blick. This is from Michaels. There's another one from Michaels. This one's fun. It's got all kinds of shapes on it. You can get plastic. They're really inexpensive. Don't think you have to spend a bunch on art supplies. And if you don't want to, before I forget to say that, I have this out. It's an old fuel saver card from my local grocery store. It doesn't work anymore. But you can scrape and paint with a credit card, cut it smaller. You know, you don't have to go buy anything. Just use an old gift card. And then my favorite, you can tell just because of the paint on the handle. So I like this guy, because it has lots of edges, shapes, a little bit smaller. Because I tend to paint a lot more smaller paintings. I do larger ones. Oh, and here's a plastic one, but it's very similar to that guy. And then it's just, sometimes it's just fun to buy art supplies. So that's why I have some of these, because it's just fun. All right, I'm gonna put, well, maybe I'm gonna put some of these away. We don't have to show every one of them. Okay, so I think I'll primarily focus on maybe these three guys. So I like heavy body paints because they're thicker. Here, maybe I'll put some, now if I put some white out, you're not gonna be able to see it. Let's put, I'm looking, I've got paints to my right here. Let's use a little burnt sienna from Liquitex. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a little more, it stands up. So that can be nice when you're palette knife painting. Oh, here's a tip. So after you put some paint out, oops, I'm getting a lot. Wipe it on a paper towel to clean it off. It can make it easier to get the caps off later. And then we'll put out just some student grade. I don't know why they call it student grade, because it's cheaper maybe. I think the student grade paints, whether it's the basics in Liquitex or in any brand, well, when I say any brand, I haven't used that many, but Blick, Artist Loft, and Liquitex, I think they're just as heavily pigmented. They're just, I haven't opened this in a while, it doesn't want to open. They're just not quite as heavy body is all. So I'll put a little yellow out. Oh gosh, and that's actually quite heavy body, because I think it's old. After I just said that. That's funny. And I'm going to put a little white. I tend to buy white in a big jar because I go through a lot of it. Let's put it over here. Okay. And then let's just play. So I've got a piece of fuzz there. So one thing that can be kind of helpful is like, why would you want to paint with a palette knife? I cannot get that off. Because unlike the examples I showed you, well, this one, it'll keep you looser and you can have it more sort of an arty feel, for lack of a better term, and it can keep you looser. It's sort of like when you get more comfortable painting and you show your brush strokes more. I don't know that there's any reason to use a palette knife like I did on this truck. The trees are great. The mountains are great, but I really probably should have just used a brush on the truck. It would have been quicker. And then the cat I showed you was just because I wanted to see if I could do it. So one tip, they talk about, you pull a little paint out. Let's see, can you see that? So you can pull some paint out and then you just kind of get a bead on the edge. I don't know if you can see that. And then that way, if you hold it just an angle, well, didn't do it. So there I'm just kind of running my paint through that, or my knife through that. There we go. So that's one way to get lines. And then you can pull it down to get some texture, which is what I love. Now let's see if I can show you. I'm looking at, I don't know if I've got some of that right here. It's a little hard to see, but you can see the skipping. But see, I'm pretty sure if you cut a credit card down, I'm just gonna dip the end of it in there. You might actually like that better. And then you can pull it down if you wanted to. Pull it up, and you start to get hints of a landscape and maybe some water reflection. So whenever I tell you, I've said this in a couple videos now, but I realized, because people ask me, you know, what's the best brush? What's the best? I'm like, you can use your fingers. Cooks get in there with their hands and use their fingers. You can finger paint, you can use gift cards, you use whatever you want. And there really isn't any reason to use any of these other than if you just want to cover a bigger area or like get a bigger line. I'll pull a little bit out like this. I'm gonna wipe that off. And then just, and you might like this one better because see, I'm getting a better angle on it. Got a little bead on it. This one might be easier for you to control. It also bends a little bit better. So this is where it comes to, you have to just try and see what you like. Okay, that's the basics of palette knife. Other than the other thing you can do is sort of load up the flat part of the knife. Here, why don't we just use this one for fun to mix it up. And then you can kind of double load it, now that I'm looking at this, like a paintbrush. Yep. And then kind of get a swipe going. Oh, you probably couldn't see that. Was that off camera? So grab a little yellow, pull it out. I'm gonna clean off my knife, it's pretty dirty there. I've got some white there. Sorry if that was off camera. We'll just do it again. You can see it's kind of double loaded. Oh, I'll be right back. My computer's going off. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, so it's double loaded. Let's try this again. So you could almost like make a rainbow. And then when it dries out, it's just like dry brushing. Oh, that was gorgeous. See the scrapes and the skips we got? I think that's fun. So in my opinion, that's about all there is to palette knife painting, but it can be really fun. Oh, here, we could do a little branch maybe. So let's just get some paint down. And what's nice is branches kind of aren't super smooth anyway. And you would need another coat because you can see the canvas coming through. The raw sienna or the burnt sienna is pretty transparent. A lot of the acrylic paints have a little transparency. Layers and coats are definitely your best friend. And then you could wait for this to dry if you wanted. But since we're doing a quick video, I thought I would just show you. I'm just grabbing some paint, have a little bead on the tip. And then you kind of go like in the motion of the branch. If that makes sense. In the motion, that's an interesting term. So just like with brushes, palette knife stroke direction matters. So you kind of want to go around the branch. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. And then I might let that dry and then add some white. Oops, sorry, I don't know if you can see that. Add some white highlights. I'm wiping a little bit of that paint off. But that's how you can get some kind of fun smeary things too, if you work wet on wet. And if it dries, it's just like painting with a brush. Don't worry about it. Or it gets too light on you in a spot. Just grab some more. It's sort of like frosting. Think of it as like frosting a cake, but you're frosting a branch. Now you can tell I quit talking, so I'm playing. It's starting to come to life. It might look better if we had some darker browns. You could even do clouds with a palette knife. And then look how square this cloud is. It doesn't have to necessarily be round. So let's see if we can, and you might even be able to almost scumble. So I think it's really fun. It can really kind of take the, oh, that's kind of neat. So my palette knife was just a little dirty and picking up a little bit of this paint. And I'm getting a fun texture. So I hope this helped a little bit. If you use a gift card, a credit card, let me know. I think they can be fun. Plus it can give you a nice long line if you don't want to do it in little teeny bits. If you have just this knife and a gift card, because it could take you a long time to do with that one. Whereas you can cover a lot more ground with a gift card. Hopefully this was helpful. I think it'd be a lot of fun and take the pressure off of getting it just right. So that you don't do what I did here. Sometimes I get into details and like go a little too crazy. It'll make it look more artistic. And I hope it's fun for you guys. Thank you. Oh gosh, I know what I want to say. I was starting to say thank you. I just hit 500 subscribers and I'm getting comments and people are sending money to support the channel. I can't tell you how much that means to me. I didn't think that this was going to be at all interesting to you guys. So I'm so happy that you're liking and commenting and sharing and connecting with me. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, guys, I hope you like this. Great big art hugs. I hope to chat with you soon. Bye, guys.